Hello, my name is Dr. Craig Stark, and I'm a professor at the University of California, Irvine. Research in my lab tries to figure out how memory works and how it changes with things like age and dementia. Now, we all know that our memory gets worse with age. That's something that a lot of us have encountered. The things that seem to actually change with age, though, are actually rather specific. So you may have something like, I know I remember it, but when did that actually happen? Or, I know I've seen her before, but who is she? Or the classic one, I know I came home and I put my keys down, but where did I leave them? So these are the kinds of things that we actually see change in our memory as we age. And there's something really in common with all of these. It's that we hold on to the gist of the memory, the basics of what happened, but the details seem to have gotten lost. And this is a very typical sort of thing that we have seen change with age. Now, research in my lab and in other labs across the country have really been able to highlight that there's a specific structure in the brain called the hippocampus that seems to be critical for this detail memory, and that seems to be really the problem, or one of the big problems that's going on with aging. Now, is there anything though that we can do about this? Well, as researchers have looked at animal models, looked at things like how a mouse ages, they've come up with some really interesting findings. For one thing, if you have mice live in a pretty basic sort of environment, like these mice here living together, but living in just a small little box there, versus you have them living in a much bigger sort of environment, a bigger box with things to play on and explore and things to do, we find that this actually has a real impact on their brain. We call this environmental enrichment, and one of the big things that we see is that actually their hippocampus changes. We can actually see inside of their brain that new neurons are born into their hippocampus, neurons that we think are actually leading to their memory being better. And it's not only that. The more the mouse goes and explores its world, the more it engages with its environment, the more of these new neurons they get, and the better that their memory actually gets. So that's a pretty cool kind of thing. But we don't really just want to know, can we make a mouse have a good memory as it ages? We want to know, can our memory be better as we age? And so we're going to need to try to move that kind of environmental enrichment from the lab into humans here. So how do we do that? Well, my lab doesn't look like these kinds of things here. We don't have things like these giant jungle gyms for people to explore in, or we don't have people go on geocaching or live underground in these huge, underground kinds of cities or something like that. That's not something I can do all that easily. But how can we have somebody have this idea of really exploring a new world and being engaged and having some kind of enrichment? Well, somebody in my lab, Dave Clemenson, had a really, really great idea. I wish I could take credit for this idea. It was brilliant. He said, let's have people play large 3D immersive video games. These worlds are gigantic and people have spent millions of dollars making really rich, engaging experiences. Let's have people actually go and explore these worlds and play commercial off-the-shelf video games to give them enrichment, to give them something new, to feed their hippocampus new things to learn. Now, to be honest, when I first heard this idea, I thought there's no way that this is going to work. It's one of my jobs as a researcher to train the next generation of scientists. So I said, sure, Dave, let's go and actually try this. So what he did is he brought a whole bunch of people into the lab and he gave them a memory test, a test that my lab developed that is very, very sensitive to how well your hippocampus is working. We have people study a series of objects and then we may test them. For example, on this seahorse here, they may have studied the one on the bottom and later on we show them the one on the top. It's really pretty similar. You know you've seen a seahorse, but do you have the details to know that's the one that you saw? And it turned out that people who played big 3D video games did better on this test than people who didn't. That was pretty amazing. I said, look, there are a lot of things that you could do that might lead to this. We're going to have to see this again and again and really sort of probe this before I'll actually believe it. So one of the next things we did is we brought people into the lab and we brought in people who've never played video games before and we had them play video games. Well, some of them played a 3D video game. Here in this case, it was Super Mario 3D World. They played it for a half hour a day for 2 weeks. Other people came in and they played a simpler game, Angry Birds. And other people, we didn't do anything. We tested everybody before, we waited 2 weeks, we tested them again. We waited 2 weeks and we tested them again. What we found in this, amazingly, was that those people who had played Super Mario 3D World actually got better. Their memory improved. Their memory outside of the video game, their memory on this task that is critically dependent on the hippocampus, got better. The others, there was no change. So playing a certain kind of game seemed to actually improve your memory. Now you may be saying to yourself at this point, really? Playing something like Super Mario 3D World is going to make my memory better? Come on. Well, one of our big things to do was see, does it work in anything other than college undergraduates? Because so far these studies have just been in undergraduates. So we took people who were in their 60s and 70s and we did the same thing. We would show up to their house, we would give them a big flat screen TV and a Wii U, and some of them played Super Mario 3D World. Others of them played Angry Birds, and others of them played a new solitaire game that we installed on their own computer. And we ran the same experiment. We let it actually go out for a month or so worth of playing here, and the amazing thing that we found was that just like the younger adults, just like the college undergraduates, it improved their memory. So what you're seeing here is that, well, for those who just played solitaire on their computer, nothing happened. You didn't get any better. It's not just playing anything that's going to do something for you here. But those who played Super Mario 3D World got better. After 2 weeks of playing, they were better. After a month of playing, they were better still. And this, in fact, lasted for at least a month. Now, I've not shown one little bit of the data on here yet, the data from Angry Birds. In the younger adults that hadn't done anything, in the older adults, though, we thought that if you're 75 or something and we show up to your house with a whole game console, that's an enriching experience. You're learning something new just by doing that. So maybe you'll see a little bit of an effect in that group. Sure enough, that's exactly what we saw. So the idea is that being engaged in learning something new, feeding your brain something new to learn, that's what's actually improving your memory. Now we've seen this time and time again. So far, my lab has run 5 studies in almost 300 participants. And each time we've done this, we've seen that if you don't have anything that you're really engaged in, it's gray bars, there's no effect. A little bit of enrichment, maybe a modest effect in blue there. But if we're really having you learn something new, those red bars show an improvement. Those are the 2 studies I've shown you, but we can also now go and try a different game. We tried Minecraft and had people do all sorts of different things. We had middle-aged adults do that same thing with Minecraft there to improve their memory still. And you can take it out of video games. We had older adults learn locations, do a scavenger hunt inside of a park, and each day they would learn new locations inside there, and their memory got better. Not just for where things were in the park, their ability to learn new information completely outside of this improved. So in all of this though, games are great, but the message isn't that everybody should just go out and play video games. The real message here is you need to engage with your world. You need to learn to do new things. That's the key in all of this. Feed your hippocampus something new to do, something new to learn, something new to figure out. And that's what actually seems to make your memory better. So if you want to pick up a controller and hop into one of these big immersive 3D worlds, great, you're going to be learning a lot of new things. How to play the game. Maybe you have a great way to actually talk to kids or grandkids on something like this, and that's great. But you could also pick up a brand new book, and maybe once we're out of quarantine and this sort of thing, you could be engaging in all sorts of social activities. But doing something new, something enriching here, is what this all seems to come down to. So explore your world, learn new things, and that's how your memory is actually going to get better. Thank you very much.